fam. I don't know what just happened. Fear. If you're jumping on, I'd love for you to say hello or give me a little blue or red little love hearty thing. Firstly, just thank you so much, those of you that are reaching out and sharing how much today's podcast has landed and nourished your internal dialogues. Makes my heart filled with joy. Fear. I just want to jump on here and riff human to human a little bit on fear, because isn't it just life's paralysis? Yeah? And actually, it is so synchronistic that the amazing Charmaine has jumped on, because she just inspired me to share, because often the things that we fear are so intrinsically conditioned within ourselves that we're having this inner dance and this inner dance off battle with our ego and our soul. And one of the things I don't touch on in the podcast, I don't believe, I'll have to go back and listen to it. I just let that stuff come through. I hope you can see me. The light is really bright at this window. Our ego wants to keep us safe, and often we think, especially sometimes in a spiritual context or a therapeutic context, we're making the ego bad, and the ego is not bad at all. Our shadow is not bad. We are equal parts light and shadow. We move through the spectrum of emotions. Like if you think of a pendulum, there is fear and anger, there is love and pleasure and joy. And one of my values as a human being and in my work is to really be a beacon and a stand for all of it, because it's all relative and contextual to being an evolving human being. But when more specifically it comes to fear, I think right now on the planet, as we pull back the layers of ourselves like an onion, there is this grand awakening that feels like an eruption and a crumbling, that feels really scary and really frightening. And yes, that may be true, and next to that is our perception and our inner truth, because right now I can see a lot of people stepping 2 feet in to their dreams and desires, and that is always met with equal parts of fear. And from that place we get to make a choice, because some of our deepest fears as humans are a fear of judgment, a fear of rejection, a fear of abandonment, a fear of not fitting in, because biologically every single one of us yearns to belong and to have a place on this planet, in our body, on this earth. And yet we move around life a lot of the time outside of our body, disassociated from ourselves, and we have all of these outside internal perceptions that we feel we need to validate ourselves to be in alignment with our truth. And what it actually does, I'm thinking of cordial. It dilutes our truth, because we're removing ourselves away from what we innately know that we're expanding into. And that's where that podcast was birthed from this invitation place of, like, when we step into the unknown territory and the unknown waters of something we've only ever dreamt, that we've visualized, that we've written down, and then all of a sudden it starts to manifest in our reality. And our old self, because we as humans are like weaving a timeline, a tapestry, a thread of who we are. We as human beings from our old perception, if you think of it as a timeline, are looking towards where we're going, but we don't know it. Like we don't know who we're going to be on the other side when we jump off or into that new river, when we take that blue pill and go through the chute and we close the door to that well because we know we can't go back in there. And so because our ego mind is programmed to keep us safe, it keeps us in what we know. And if we know pain and sabotage, if we know poor eating habits, then by default we lean back into that known territory, because on the other side is this newness, and it's an expansion. And I know what I've noticed in the last couple of years for myself is because that evolves more rapidly than it did before, because I'm in the practice of all this stuff all the time. I meet myself in a new edge and I watch my nervous system, and this is where mind-body therapy is so important, because yes, we're spiritual beings having a human existence, and as humans we have a body and a sensory vessel that has a nervous system and organs and all these things, and it's the integration and the working of all of it that we get to play with and create awareness of. So my nervous system always goes like this. I think of it like locks up and I freeze or I fawn. And a big part of mind-body therapy is looking into the polyvagal theory and the vagus nerve. So one of the ways that I assure myself that it is safe to be here in my body, that it is safe to be here on this planet, that it is safe to be here in my experience, it is safe for me to have my dreams and desires and for me to lean 2 feet in. Because one thing I know to be true is that we are constantly shifting and changing no matter what. If we're not evolving with evolution ourselves, then it's evolving around us anyway. So we get to make a choice, and we get to see that beyond our fears and beyond our limiting beliefs, because underneath our fears there is a thought, and that thought has been created from a belief, and that belief has been created from a condition. And one of the things that gives me bliss bumps in my work and has in my own journey, that through regression therapy we can see whether that's from childhood or even a past life. So if we were to look at women, which is something I'm super passionate about, sisterhood, women standing side by side, hand in hand, for many women there is this embodied fear of being burned at the stakes, a fear of being whole unto herself. Let me know if this resonates for you, because this has been something that I have mused over for years. Like, how dare you shine so bright? How dare you speak your truth? Like, afraid to speak truth even from a place of love. Like, it's quite a conundrum, right? Like, we feel like if we're weaving the herbs from our garden, we experience this fear of, are they going to reject or judge me based on the choices that I make in my holistic life? And so this is where we get to take a look at patterns, conditioning, programming, and where on a spectrum we have love and fear. So if I was to choose fear in this moment, then I would choose not to shine, that I would choose not to speak my truth, and I would choose to just do what everybody else is doing so that I fit in to whatever the situation is. If I was to choose love, and love comes from an embodied state of being, and the art of love in fact starts with choosing oneself, then I would choose to know that I am safe. I would choose to know that when I'm in an activated place of love, that my courage is driven by change to create more expansion, fruits of life, deliciousness of life, whatever that is for you. And so sometimes we think our fears have been programmed from childhood, and sometimes that is true. if we've experienced traumatic things over our lifetime, that can be true. And it can be true even if you've had traumatic experiences in your childhood, that your fears and the charge of fear and the driver of fear is actually driven from past life or has been passed down to you. And of course, this means that you need to open your perception on your thoughts, and this may resonate with you or this may not. But this is why I love to refer to us women in general around being afraid of being our whole self, because we have like this fear of being burned at the stake. And I know in my chapter in Woman Rise, I say I'm no longer afraid of being burned at the stake for being all of who I am, because each life, no matter how many lives that we're living, we're only actually living that one life in this time, right? And it gets to be whatever it's meant to be by drinking the truths and the serum of our own heart and soul. So what I do see, especially around that fear of being burned at the stake, is although we're not burning women at the stake right now, in our modern day culture, maybe we've adapted it in a different way. Maybe we've experienced feeling not included in a circle of women. Maybe we've experienced judgment because we thought differently to somebody else, or maybe we weren't invited to the, I was going to say Jenna's birthday when we were 6 years old, maybe, and we felt like we were alone and isolated. So we have a fear of loneliness, and the more that we feed our fears from a consciousness perspective, what we're actually doing is feeding separation. So love is a medicine to feed and fuel inclusivity and connection and create the bridge to activate courage, to step 2 feet in, to whatever it is that you know you're being called for. Because often we're afraid of change, but our whole body, we will have a visceral response. If we're avoiding the changes that we know that are good for us, our body will consistently continue to talk to us until we're ready, or until we get so sick of ourselves, or sadly sick. Disease, disharmony is created in the body by anything that we're avoiding. It's why awareness and mind-body integration, feeling and thinking through what's in our mind and then noticing what the feeling and sensation is in our body, creates this cultivation of a dance within ourselves that then we have awareness. And with awareness, we then can create intention, and then with awareness and intention, we then create new actions. And from those new actions, we create new ways of being. And then we're constantly in evolution and the fruit of life. So my question to you today would to be like, ask yourself, what is it that you're afraid of? You know, what is it that you really desire in your life? And then why aren't you doing those things? Why aren't you doing the things that you really desire or working towards them? Because underneath that there is a fear. So what is it that you're afraid of? And not to make yourself wrong or bad for having a fear. Everybody experiences fear. It's whether or not we let it restrict and paralyze our life, or we let it be our fuel to meet ourselves in what we actually are being called further forth to do. Because vulnerability, as an example, is such a core value of mine, and gosh, it takes grit and courage to be vulnerable. And so I'm not met in my vulnerability within my body without fear. You know, they're like, I talk about this often. Clients, I say all the time, like, these are sweaty palm, sweaty pit conversations. And the sweaty pits and the sweaty palms are coming from because viscerally, my soul in my body as a practice knows that it's expanding, because I'm meeting myself with courage to go beyond the fear and be in the action of choosing love. That just makes me happy, right? That just makes me so happy. That's living. That's like art in your heart and on your skin. That's all the things. Why aren't I doing the things I desire? Because there is a fear underneath. And That's right. So label the fear. What's the fear? And it may be a really instantaneous fear. And in this moment, I want to invite you to trust the first things that come up, because as soon as we go into thinking, we come out of our unconscious mind. So you really want to dance with this with your unconscious mind. So the first thing that comes up, even if it sounds ridiculous, yeah, it gets to be the thing, and it gets to be okay, and it gets to be the thing that you accept within yourself. Don't reject it. Everything is a teacher. So whatever is underneath that fear, then you ask yourself, is this true? Am I going to be burned at the stake for being all of who I am? No. Am I unworthy of living my heart's desires? Is that true? No. Are people that are meant for me, or meant to be in the growth of my life, because not everybody is a lifetime person. We wish that they could be, but they're not. People are teachers. They come in and out of your life. Some people come back. Some people are there just for a reason. Some people are there just for a season, and some people are there for a lifetime. And your soul knows the difference. You know the difference. It's our mind that sometimes and our ego that wants to attach to certain relationships or things. Yeah, trust the first thing that comes up, because we want to speak to our subconscious, unconscious mind. And obviously, if you're not in the chair with a timeline therapist or a regression therapy or anything like that, you have the power to tap into yourself. Trust subconscious, unconscious soul. What's trapping you there? Don't overthink what's coming up either. Don't try and conceptualize and make sense, because when we're trying to make sense, we're disassociating from potentially what's underneath the truth. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. Our mind loves to play tricks on us, and our body keeps the score. So one of the things I will finish with, and I wanted to share with you, beautiful Charmaine, is when we react to fear, obviously we're having a nervous system response, and we know this because we go and do self-sabotaging behaviors, or we shut down, or we numb, whatever it is. What you want to invite yourself to do is get back into your body, because for many of us, we've created safety from being outside of ourselves. So our sphere is to give, and then we end up with compassionate fatigue, but that's a whole nother little chat. Excuse me. So we're outside of ourselves. So to bring yourself back and activate your vagus nerve is so important. And for anyone that's ever experienced any form of trauma, and on some level we've all experienced some level of trauma. Trauma is a very vast spectrum of experiences. Our vagus nerve is the one thing that I would want to work with. And then I would send you to someone like Adam at In Touch Osteo to do some cranial work. So place one hand on your forehead and one hand on cupping the back of your neck. And just take a deep breath in and exhale out. I do this with my children a lot. And instantly you can feel a sense of calm and that you're back in your body. So when you do this with your children, if you were to try this one with your kids, you might notice that they kind of want to fight because they're disassociating. Yeah, it's bringing you back. I really love that feeling. It's bringing you back into your body. And my goal would be to bring you back in your body because you're a human being and you're having a human experience. And from that calm, activated vagus nerve perspective, then you get to ask yourself, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? Where am I feeling it? what is the thought behind it? And then, is it true? Yeah. Life beyond fear to me is the muse and the inspiration to creatively live heart wide open, heart guided, soul minded, to play, to be curious, to explore, and rather than reject my fears, invite them in to be curious and to use this life with this awareness to be a beacon to transmute those that are no longer true, so that I can expand more into who I'm meant to be and who I already am, but maybe haven't given myself permission to welcome her into this body in this life. Thank you so much for joining me. I really calmed my nervous system down by doing that. I'm sure you can feel that with my voice. It really works, and it's great for kids. So keep that one in your pocket, and I hope you have a beautiful day. And my invitation to you is, if you could do one thing today that you've been afraid of doing, but you know that it's calling you, what action can you take with that intention? Sending you so much love.